know the why human trafficking work is needed, to fight for the freedom of modern-day slaves. But love, passion, commitment isn't all you need to be an effective and successful anti-trafficking advocate. Learn the how. I'm Dr. Celia Williamson, Director of the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute at the University of Toledo. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation podcast, where I'll provide you with the latest and best methods, policy, and practice discussed by experienced experts in the field so that you can cut through the noise, save time, and be about the work of saving lives. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation podcast. I'm Dr. Celia Williamson, and this is episode 170. Today, I have Patte O'Connor. She has a bachelor's degree and a master's in education, and Patte was in the wrong place at the right time in 1984. Just as her career was on track with a new job at Clemson University in South Carolina, she met Bill Cosby. This talk is taken from a presentation at the 2022 Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference. The talk was called "One Day Can Change a Life." This story itself will illustrate the dynamics of a person with power and prestige, Bill Cosby, and how he can victimize, influence, and change a life. Patte O'Connor's. She was a victim of Bill Cosby. In this session, she'll talk about her story. And then following her story, she participates in a Q&A along with me. Here's her story.
Why? Why did I have to take the first sip? He wasn't holding a gun to my head. No, he didn't even have to slightly coerce me. Perfectly played. Would you like a glass of wine? In a split-second decision, a one-word answer. Yes. What was I thinking? I was assistant director of student activities at Clemson University in South Carolina. I was on the job. I was getting paid. I only had two things I needed to do. One, get Bill Cosby to the auditorium on time. Two, simply play host to Bill Cosby. So, what planet was I living on thinking that it was okay to drink alcohol midday while working? In hindsight, I must have been nervous. I must have wanted to seem cool. Do you know the entire trajectory of my life could have been completely different had I used a different word? Was I responsible for giving Bill Cosby the golden ticket to violation? My choice, my consequence. It is a soul burner at times, thinking about who would I be had I not taken that first sip. So let me tell you about the day. It includes what I call 3 decision-making moments. The year was 1984. I was 24 years old, 2 years out of graduate school, 2 months into a brand new job. I was also 486 miles out of my never left home state, Ohio. I was young, I was brave, I was extremely naive. and exceptionally unworldly. I was a total jar of mixed nuts. Nonetheless, I was the chosen staff member to play host to the biggest name ever booked at the university for their homecoming. Man, talk about being excited. Talk about being honored. I so was. So that afternoon, Cosby's plane landed at about 2 p.m. I was thinking a million different thoughts. As butterflies were just all in my stomach. I was so worried about the 6-hour mountain of time that I had to fill before he took the stage. Then the door of the plane opened, and there he stood. The Grammy and Emmy award winner, now famously called America's Dad. He was even in the red Adidas sweatsuit that he wore on the opening credits of the #1 sitcom in the country, The Cosby Show. There I was, standing solo on the landing strip with a police escort security guy in the background. With a smile on my face, I nervously introduced myself. And he was warm and friendly from the get-go. He seemed genuinely pleased to meet me. So first thing he wanted to do was get some burgers and a Coke. Done. Second thing he wanted to do was get to the hotel room. Done. So there we are at the hotel room door. Now, did I think for one hot second that he would want me to go inside? Heck no. I was thinking, he'd want to relax and chill out and get his head together before the show. Never did I think he would want to spend time with me. So that brings me to the first key decision-making moment. Come on in, he said with a big smile. Thank God my thoughts are silent. And just like that, I made a decision to walk through the door and be alone in an enclosed space with Bill Cosby. Picture a room with 1960s ambiance. There was a small bathroom, 2 beds, 2 twin beds, a table in between with a lamp. In the corner was a table with a gift basket on it that had a bottle of wine in it and a small TV. When he offered right away to open up the bottle of wine and poured me a glass, little did I realize I was opening up Pandora's box. Brings me to the second key decision-making moment. Cosby made a left field statement, pointing and looking at the 2 twin beds. This bed is yours. This bed is mine. What was I? That's what I was thinking. I was hoping that my face would reveal okay, that was super weird to say. So I just gave him a nod and said, okay, fine by me. Little did I know that within the next 6 hours, my life would change forever. Let's pause for a second. I want you to remember, this is in the 1980s. Okay, there was no Me Too movement. The words date and rape weren't even strung side by side. It was still the untamed west of sexual experiences. That brings me to the third and final pivot, decision-making moment, which has several different components. Okay. So as time continued, he kept pouring me glass after glass. Never did I notice that he never drank anything. He also at this time could have put in a possible pill. I was getting pretty woozy and tired. His plan was working. He asked me if I wanted to take a nap. Heck yeah! At this point, it was clear I had completely lost sight of what I was doing. Did I even care about getting him into the auditorium? No. Did I even know what time it was? No. Was I completely out of control? Yeah, I was. So he told me that I could lay down on his bed. With all inhibitions gone, I fell onto the bed. He then asked me if I liked back rubs or tummy rubs. Despite my declining incoherence, a twinge went off inside of me with that question. I didn't know what to say. So I said, I guess back rubs. So he puts his hand on my shoulders and just kind of rubs it around. And then quickly he said, well, it's my turn and I want a tummy rub. He lifts up his shirt and jacket to expose his skin. Oh man, that second twinge came and it was even stronger. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know what a tummy rub was. So I took my hand and I just made circles on his stomach really awkwardly. All of a sudden, he leaned in and he kissed me on my mouth. That twinge exploded and I said, stop. My world then went black.
Hey, I want to break into this episode for a moment. I want to remind you that survivors of sex trafficking experience trauma as a result. Trauma-informed care is something we learn so that we don't re-traumatize victims. However, trauma-informed care will not lower someone's trauma. We have survivors that need to heal inside. Most quality direct service workers connect survivors to needed services like healthcare, housing, legal services, and more. But these services, while necessary, won't address the internal trauma. Even when we connect them to trauma treatment counselors, they spend about an hour a week addressing traumas that have taken over their entire lives. They need so much more. Connecting someone to needed housing won't fix the brokenness inside. Arresting their trafficker allows them justice, but it won't heal the internal pain. Linking them to a lawyer won't take them to a place of reclaiming their freedom and experiencing genuine joy. Walking alongside survivors to provide support, nurturing, love, kindness, and to build relationship is critical. But they also need the tools to regain the power, choice, and voice internally. Healing the internal pain requires survivors to do the internal work. I've worked with and studied the issue for almost 30 years. I recently wrote a book outlining the 12 journeys that survivors need to go on to heal the trauma and to live the life they truly want to live. I'd love to train you to be a group facilitator leading survivors toward the internal healing they need. The training is the TNT Survivors Journey Group. Let me train you to facilitate these important groups and put survivors on their path to living the life they want and experience the freedom and joy they deserve. To learn more, go to my website, celiawilliamson.com, and watch the free webinar to learn more about the course. I look forward to training you and helping you help survivors to heal. And now, on with the podcast.
What happened next was in his memory, not mine. I would give anything to erase his fingerprints that not only touched my skin, but the depths of my very being. All of a sudden, the phone rang. It was like a lightning bolt. It woke me up from a dead sleep. The room, pitch black. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know if I was dressed or undressed. I heard at the end of the phone my boss screaming. I don't even know what he was saying. All of a sudden, then I heard water running. Cosby, shower. You must be in the shower. The next thing I remember, there's a violent pounding on the door. It was my boss. Cosby answered it. Okay, I have no recollection of leaving the hotel room. None getting into the police escort car. The only thing I remember is I was sandwiched in between Cosby and my boss. I put a death grip on my boss's hand to try and convey non-verbally, I was scared. I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. I don't remember getting out of the car and walking to the auditorium. I do remember walking down the auditorium, this infinite-like corridor with all my coworkers and students, familiar faces that I couldn't even see because everything was so blurry. We got to the locker room where we had set up a photo op. Cameras, noise, people talking, chaos. I was in a haze. The next thing I remember, everyone was cleared out, and I see my boss and Cosby in the corner. My boss was in Cosby's face, asking him, "What's going on with Patte? What's the matter with her?" The next thing I knew, Cosby was walking in front of me. He shrugged his shoulders and mouthed the words, "I'm sorry." Then I heard the roar of the crowd. Cosby had taken Sage. How could anyone in their right mind perform a comedy routine after what he just did to me? Nobody talked to me that night about what had happened that I remember. A police escort drove me home. My bedroom was on the second floor. I woke up in the middle of the stairs. I didn't even make it to the landing nor my bedroom. I passed out cold on the way to my bed. I was in deep denial that lasted 21 years until a woman named Andrea Constand, who also worked at a university just like me, made accusations against Cosby in 2005, saying that she was sexually assaulted by him. I realized I had to help her. I called her lawyer. I told what happened to me because there were so many similarities to her case. I then had a new name. I was Jane Doe number 6, an anonymous reporter. There were 12 of us who all had similar stories. Fast forward to 2019. I took my name back and announced to the world, me too, me too. I became part of the book that detailed all of his sexual assaults. And it was entitled Chasing Cosby, The Downfall of America's Dad by Nicole Weinstein. What would have happened had I not taken the first sip? I'll never know. What I do know is that I released myself from the chains of shame and guilt. Bill Cosby was a master manipulator who was accused of rape, drug-related assault, and sexual misconduct by 60 plus women. I am now free of those chains. Am I the epitome of perfection? Absolutely not. I am a work in progress every day. So how did I get to this point? Well, let me tell you, lots and lots and lots of therapy, truly. Family, friends, physical exercise. I am a girl who loves the outdoors. I love being in my kayak and I love being in nature and practicing mindfulness. I know that many of you can relate to the shame, blame, and guilt that you have put yourselves in. It took me 21 years to realize that I even had a wound. I was drowning in denial. Then another woman's story woke me up. She woke me up to my own truth. Perhaps at this conference, another woman's truth will open up your world. My hope for you is that you receive whatever it is that you need to help you move forward towards ultimately healing, reaching a place of self-love and self-acceptance. We are here together to listen, share, and grow, and connect to move forward one step at a time. Have the strength and courage to ask for help. Be brave by being authentically you and vulnerable. You are in a safe place. Stand strong in solidarity and close to your fellow sisters in this journey back to you. Finally, you all will experience many opportunities to possibly have your own key decision-making moments. Will there be one person, one word they say, or perhaps you say, that will change something forever.
Always no. Right.
Pause. I like what you said. Pause. Take the time.
Pause. Pause. Step away.
Yes, I love that. And so you have not only, come into your own to say, I will pause when I need to. If I feel uncomfortable, I will pause so that I give myself time to talk about it. But you went further. Like in 2019, you decided to go public and you allowed your story to be in a book even. So what was that experience like?
Tougher than I thought. You can't experience something until you experience something, is what I found out. The reason I waited, people have asked me that, why didn't you come out back in, when it happened? Well, back in 1984, it wasn't a Me Too movement. There was no time's up. It was a different culture.
Yeah.
When Andrea came out, oh my gosh, she experienced such a backlash. And my parents were living at the time. And I really processed through it. I realized that had I come out at that time, their life and my life would have changed. Everyone and their brother would have said, oh, it would have all been about Patte. And I just couldn't do it. So things changed in 2019. My dad had passed. My mom was deep in Alzheimer's, and so she wouldn't understand. So the book was coming out. It was the push that I needed because I always wanted to stand in solidarity with all the brave women who had come out before. So the book was coming out. That was kind of like the nudge in the ribs. And it gave me an opportunity to do what I had always intended on doing, because I started the process in 2005 when I, called her lawyer and came out. So I needed to come full circle. And it was difficult. I got a lot of the same comments that everyone else did with, why'd you come out now? You're lying. You want something from it. All of that. And I'm not going to lie, it was tough. It was tough. But I don't regret a thing that I've done. And I'm so glad that I'm continuing on the journey with it.
And so what did you do during those tough times? Because I could imagine some women that are in this room that may be experiencing sexual harassment or something with powerful people, bosses, supervisors, and they're contemplating whether they should come out, whether they should speak out about it, or try to receive justice. What did you do during those downtimes, and when people were saying, "Oh, you're lying, you're making this up, you're trying to get something out of it"? How did you sustain yourself during those times?
Well, thank God for family and friends. Thank God. I confided in them a lot. I vented to them a lot. They were very supportive. So I think your family and friends, that your tribe that is around you, is essential to give you support through it. I also had a lot of help from specifically a trauma-informed and focused therapist. Mm-hmm. She has been essential to my moving through and working through all the issues. So I really think it's the support network. And my message to everyone out there who maybe hasn't gotten help or who maybe is getting help, if you feel that the shoe doesn't fit with your therapist and you're not moving forward, go elsewhere. There are a lot of resources that you can tap into to get a trauma-focused therapist. And that's really what you need. And that really was a pivotal point for me. The family and friends can take you so far, but getting the support of a professional is, I think, crucial.
Yeah. And you notice she said trauma focused. So you want a trauma certified, somebody certified in a trauma treatment modality, and not just a therapist. So, but let's go back those 21 years. How did you go into denial? What did you tell yourself? I mean, you had to experience a lot of shame, a lot of blame. Maybe you were blaming yourself. I mean, how did you stay in denial all those years?
It was such a weird thing. I actually didn't feel any shame or blame or nothing, because I put it so deep and buried inside of me that I was so numb. I even spun that story into almost a comedy routine. Oh, let me tell you about my funny Bill Cosby story. I was that nuts, like that deep in denial about it. So I didn't experience anything. It was like I was in an enclosed black room. I was that deep. And then, so really I was just numb. And I think what I did was, I did what other people do. I used substances, like alcohol, some drugs, even food, to because it's always in you. It's always in you. It's there. And so I used substances to handle my feelings, in a non-healthy way. So it wasn't until that 2005 and Android came out, it was like my world exploded, because I'm like, holy cow, I was sexually assaulted. He wasn't playing tiddlywinks when I was passed out and he had, a female in the room based on his history. So it was then where I really had to go into, but I knew myself. I was 24. I was so naive, and just, it was a different time and culture. So I really didn't blame myself that much, that deeply, because I knew I never would have done that. And had I not been under the influence of drugs and alcohol, hopefully I can say it would never happen because I know myself. Did that
Yeah.
answer the question?
Yes, and I think a lot of women, we will do that. We will say, "Oh, well, this happened to me. It's kind of funny. Oh, I didn't fulfill the job that. Let me tell you about the time I didn't." And that, but deep inside, we wonder, why are we medicating, or that sort of thing. So I think it's very common. And Brittany says, it's so important. Friends and family are important, but they can only take you so far. And that's exactly right. And then Jen said, did you ever experience flashbacks to the assault? And if so, how did you cope with them?
Brittany, I consider myself one of the fortunate ones that I was so blacked out. I had drank a full bottle of wine. He then gave me Kahlua and coffee, which he did with many of his victims because I think he slipped in a sedative and the coffee masked that. So I thank God I was passed out and I don't have any flashbacks of what happened, but many of my fellow survivors do. So I feel fortunate that, but do I think about it? Is it still fresh in my memory like it happened yesterday? Oh my gosh, yes. I can put myself back with him in that hotel room in a heartbeat, in a heartbeat.
Wow. And I'm curious, what do you think about Bill Cosby today? And what do you think about his show it was a very popular show.
He was number one. His sitcom was number one in the country when we had him as our homecoming act. What do I think of him now? I think he is a very sick individual. You have to be doing that to over 60 plus women, doing that to your wife, doing that to your family, doing that to yourself. He's sick. I have forgiven him for what he has done. I won't forget it. But I think the man is sick and he is in such denial that to this day, he doesn't believe that he did that. So he's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Patty, what, experiences, positive and negative, affect your future? This was definitely a negative experience. How do you plan to use that in a way that could help other people? And if so, how do you plan to do that?
Well, I must say thank you to you and Anna, who have been kind of like elbowing me gently ever since I was a moderator last year for the Survivors Networking, which I'm going to do again this year. That writing my own story, giving that speech was so cathartic. It really healed me and it helped me really even put together more of my story. So I am so excited about taking lemons and making lemonade. I plan on doing speaking and taking my message forward. I've already written another speech and it really focuses on intuition. So I really hope to do speaking about this. And Celia knows I plan on becoming a facilitator and working with Celia, taking one of her tracks to work with in the survivor's journey. So I am going full steam in a new direction with my life. It's like I'm starting all over. So I'm really excited.
And so much to offer. It's going to be so powerful. And can we see what your shirt says right now?
Oh, it's me, strive to thrive. Like we all want to be not just survivors, but we want to be thrivers. And yes. Hey, me too. So it brings it all together.
On the subject of self-forgiveness, did you experience eventually any shame and had to go through a process of self-forgiveness?
Yes, because I was, I felt shame about making the decision to drink alcohol. I felt a lot of shame. I felt that had I not done that, that I was responsible because had I not drank the alcohol, that I was responsible. So I had to work through that. And it was all a people pleasing, nervous thing that was going on at the time.
Yeah, I
So
think,
I did have to forgive myself over that.
and I think many people experience that. That's what happens in the brain and the heart, is that you will figure out a way to fault yourself for something that is totally not your fault. And we do that to ourselves. And, we start to think that there's something wrong with us, something we did, something we played a part in, when it had nothing at all to do. Well, what we weren't the perpetrators. And that's so hard. It's easily said, but it is so hard to feel in your heart, even, even as domestic violence survivors or sex trafficking survivors. We think if we could just act a certain way or say a certain, or if we would have just done, or if we could have just, and that is a mind game that will just continue to keep you traumatized and in the same place. So
Yeah, I agree because what I find myself doing is I kind of have a shame sort of mentality that I have to constantly work on because it affects me with my whole life. That I always think that I'm not good enough, or it's my fault, and it's that mentality that has been ingrained in me. So oh my gosh, this is a work in progress, and this is why the therapy with a trauma focused individual helps so much, because I do have that mentality and I struggle with it to this day.
yeah, and I have as well, as a survivor of intimate partner violence. And so I think that being able to speak out the way that you're speaking out, saying that this is a part of the process. It shouldn't be a part of the process, but it is a part of the process. And it's an ongoing process of healing. And when we hear somebody as powerful as you are today say that that's a process, that it makes us feel like, okay, it's okay. I'm on a journey to healing. I don't have to stay broken. I can be very powerful. I can choose joy.
Yes.
Joy is a choice. I can choose internal joy in my life. And so, how long had you been in therapy, and do you continue to be in therapy? And how long do you suspect you might be in therapy?
I've been in therapy probably, well, okay, I'm old. I'm 63.
Yeah, me too. I'm 62.
Okay, rock on, sister.
That's
So
right.
I have been in therapy for about 20 years, which people are like, whoa. But I'm glad. And I had a therapist, the same therapist for a long time. And I finally made the decision, wow, I'm not moving forward. So I searched out a trauma focused one, and I noticed, gosh, my progress just sped up exponentially when I started with the trauma focused therapist. So, and I see her once a week. I do. And I don't know when that's going to stop. And I'm not ashamed of admitting that at all.
Yeah, I think that's very healthy. And that's another act of courage. You go to a therapist for so long, you build a relationship, and you're,
Yeah.
and
It was hard to leave them.
we tend to be people pleasing people anyway. We don't want to, oh, well, they might be offended if we leave them with it. But we have to remember that they're there for our care. And so they should be happy if we aren't making progress and we're moving on to a new therapist. Don't be worried about what they feel. They're there to help you get to
Right.
the next level. So that's okay if you leave them and find the therapist that you are experiencing progress with. That's a good thing. So Melissa says, hey, what's the name of the book?
Chasing Cosby, The Downfall of America's Dad.
Where can they get it?
They can get it on Amazon.
So, Patty, what made you share your story in this book? I mean, that had to be scary.
It was scary to put myself out there. It was, as I mentioned before, it was because all the other women were so brave, and because they came out earlier when the Me Too movement wasn't there, they received so much backlash. And because it happened to me too, it was something that I had to do. I had to stand with them to support them. It was a solidarity thing to me. I knew I had to do it at some point to come full circle. And I just needed to be courageous and brave about it and just do it.
Yeah. It's like you were vulnerable once and you were exploited as a result. So it's hard to then muster up the courage to be vulnerable again and step out and say, this is my real name. This happened to me, and I'm joining these other women, because you know that you have the potential to face the criticism, the critique of people that will come up with, like all what you said, why didn't you leave? Why aren't you singing? Why didn't you? And because they don't understand trauma, they don't understand vulnerability, they don't understand women who are put in positions where people are very powerful. And your charge is to make them feel comfortable, make them happy, deliver the person to the place. And if they say, oh, well, I want to stop here for food. Oh, I'd like to stop at my room. Oh, I'd like to have a glass of wine. Or would you like, you tend to say yes, because I want you to feel, I want to be hospitable to you. I want to be social. I want you to feel comfortable. And that's our nature, as kind, caring people. And so it's difficult for us to find our voice and to say, no, I'm going against the grain, when it just seems so much more pleasing and easy to just make people feel comfortable and feel like you are connecting with them. Like, I so get it. And I so get particularly women doing that all the time, because we are nurturing. We want people to feel comfortable. We want people to feel welcome. So at the time that happened, did you share with your boss ever that this had happened? And if you did, how long after did you share?
With my boss, which boss?
Back in the time where he came to the hotel and he got Cosby and he said, what's wrong with Patty? And
yeah, that was difficult, because he never addressed it with me. He almost put it in the next morning. Well, when we went to work, we had a staff meeting, and I really thought I was going to be fired. I really did. I walked in thinking, oh my gosh, this is my last day. And the staff was all in his office. And what he did was he went into his drawer, he pulled out a wine bottle opener and sat it on his desk, and everyone laughed. And that's how he handled it. And how did I respond? I was relieved, because I wasn't fired, right? And so I found him years later, and the author of the book wanted him to make a statement, and he refused. He would not talk about it. He was still working in higher education, and I think he was trying to protect himself, because how he handled it in retrospect was incorrect. And so he was protecting himself, and to this day, he will not speak about it. So I never came full circle with him.
Well, if I may, I'm trying to emotionally regulate myself, but if I may say on the record, what an asshole, and that pisses me off. So I'll just say, just two small cuss words, but I have to share.
He was an asshole. He is an asshole.
Yeah. He has no idea about what you could have experienced. What a person what insensitivity that is to make a joke of it. Is that I hope that this guy won't go on a record, but I hope that he understands what he did, and I hope he has had some training, and learned some empathy. But who knows? And I'm sure many women, particularly, have experienced where they have experienced some type of exploitation or somebody trying to exploit them, and that person, their supervisor, their boss, or was very insensitive to that situation. And for you to just be thankful to have a job, that's what we place women in every single day, to just be thankful that
It was.
instead of the felony crime that was just committed against you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's very powerful. So I hope that people understand and see that if this is happening to you, please, if you cannot, or if you're a person that this would never happen to you, or you're a male in this room right now, and it does happen to males as well. But if you're a person in a powerful situation and something is happening and maybe you don't understand it exactly, but just remember this session. Just think of Patty and her experience, because sometimes when we just think of one person that we like and know, and we know their story, that kind of gives us pause. And we can say, wait, let me think and process through and talk to people. Something deeper may be going on here. So I think, Patty, this is very helpful for not only people who are vulnerable, but people in this session who hold powerful positions to take pause. Is there anything, last words that you want to say to the audience?
I just want to thank the university for giving me this opportunity and encouraging me to tell my story. And I want to thank everyone out there watching. And we're all together in this. We are all one. And I hope that you have a wonderful time at this conference and learn and grow and share. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Patty. That was Patty O'Connor. Wow. It shows you what hard work and determination can do to bring out the healing power of an individual. Patty is now on a crusade to help other vulnerable people who may have been victimized to find their voice. She also wants to speak out. She does presentations. She has on her website lots of good information. If you want to visit her website, it's Patty O'Connor, assaultsurvivorspeaker.com. It's Patty, Patte, O'Connor, Oconnor, assault, ASSULT, survivor, SURVIVOR, speaker, SPEAKER.com. Patty O'Connor, assault survivor speaker.com. When you go to her website, you will see something that says Meet Patty. You'll see her biography, contact information, and speaking examples that she'll share with you. She talks about empathy, being grateful. She talks about being resilient. So if you're interested in having a survivor, a powerful survivor like Patty speak, please go to our website. Even if you don't want her to speak and you just want to learn about her or more information, please go to her website and learn more about her story. And what I leave you with is be courageous like her and live the life that your heart is guiding you to lead. Until next time, the fight continues.
Let's not just do something, let's do the best thing. If you like this episode of Emancipation Nation, Please subscribe, and I'll send you the weekly podcast. Until then, the fight continues.